You ever have one of those dreams where everything feels totally real, but something is just a little bit off? Like you're at your childhood home, but the front door is made of blue light. Or you're talking to your best friend, but they have someone else's voice. Well, imagine that feeling, but instead of waking up in your warm bed, you wake up buried up to your neck in the middle of a scorching hot desert, and the only thing you're holding is a ringing modern 2024 digital alarm clock. This isn't your typical cowboy story with 6 shooters and dusty saloons. This is a world where the very ground beneath your feet might turn into water if you blink too fast. Today, we're diving into the mystery of the Silent Saloon, a place where the Wild West meets a glitchy reality that no one was ever supposed to see. Now, if you think you've seen every Western twist out there, from aliens to time travel, I'm telling you right now, you aren't ready for what's happening in Red Creek. This is a story about a lawman named Silas, who's trying to figure out why his world is literally falling apart, piece by pixelated piece. We're going to look at how a simple scar can change sides on a man's face, why a frozen mid-gallop brown horse would be frozen in mid-air like a paused movie, and what happens when the sun refuses to set for 3 days straight. If you love a good mystery that keeps you guessing until the very last second, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the strange events of this pilot episode and try to figure out if Silas is a hero, a villain, or just a line of code in a massive computer program. Let's start at the very beginning, because the opening of this story is enough to make anyone's head spin. Picture a wide-open desert under a sun that's so bright it looks fake. A single raindrop falls from a cloudless sky. But instead of splashing on a rock, it's a solid chunk of 24-karat gold. It hits a stone and shatters like glass. That's our first clue, that the physics of this world are completely broken. And right there, buried in the sand, is Silas. He's a weathered lawman, the kind of guy who looks like he's lived through 100 gunfights. He's got a deep, rugged scar running down his cheek, and he looks like he hasn't slept in a week. But here's the weird part. He's holding a modern-day digital alarm clock. It's beeping that annoying high-pitched sound we all hate in the morning. In the year 1880, that shouldn't even exist. Silas digs himself out, gasping for air, and the first thing he looks for is his horse. He finds it nearby, but it's not grazing or waiting for him. The horse is caught in a glitch. It's mid-gallop, completely frozen in the air. Its mane is stiff, its legs are tucked, and it's just hovering 3 feet off the ground. Silas touches it, and it feels like cold marble. This isn't magic. It's like someone hit the pause button on reality itself. Before he can even process what's happening, something moves in the brush. Silas draws his gun, but he's not looking at a wolf or a bandit. He sees a Coyote-Shifter. This thing is terrifying. It looks like a normal coyote 1 second. Then it flickers and turns into a mess of jagged lines and colors, like a scratched DVD. It's moving toward him, but it's not running. It's teleporting, appearing 5 feet closer every time the sun flickers. Silas doesn't wait around to see what it wants. He starts running toward the only thing he can see on the horizon, the town of Red Creek. When Silas finally reaches Red Creek, things get even weirder. From a distance, the town looks like any other frontier settlement. You've got the general store, the livery stable, and of course, the big saloon at the end of the street. But as he walks down the main road, he realizes there isn't a single soul in sight. No barking dogs, no blacksmiths hammering away. Nothing. It's completely silent. Well, it's silent until the wind blows. When a gust of wind hits Silas's ears, he doesn't hear the sound of the desert. He hears the faint, ghostly sounds of a massive modern city. He hears car horns honking, the screech of subway brakes, and the distant wail of a police siren. It's like the wind is carrying audio from a completely different century. Silas stops by a puddle of water to splash his face. He's trying to wake himself up, thinking this has to be some kind of heat stroke. But when he looks at his reflection, he freezes. The scar on his face, the one he's had for years, is on the wrong side. He touches his left cheek, feeling the rough skin, but in the reflection, his right cheek is the one with the mark. He moves his hand, and the reflection is delayed by a split second. It's like a laggy video call. His own body is becoming a glitch. He heads into the sheriff's office, hoping to find some weapons or maybe a map. On the wall, he sees a wanted poster with his own face on it. Usually, in these stories, the hero is wanted for bank robbery or murder. But this poster says Silas is wanted for saving the world. The bounty isn't in dollars, it's in seconds of life. None of it makes sense. That's when he hears a voice from the back. In one of the jail cells, there's a young girl named Elara. While everything else in the town looks dusty and a bit blurry, she looks incredibly sharp. Her clothes are bright, her eyes are clear, and she looks like she's in high definition compared to the rest of the world. She's the only thing that feels 100% real. Silas approaches the cell, his hand on his holster. Elara doesn't look scared. She looks bored, like she's been waiting for him to show up for a long time. She tells him something that sends a chill down his spine. She says the sun hasn't moved in 3 days. In Red Creek, it's always high noon. She explains that the world they're in is on a timer. If the sun ever actually sets, the entire area gets deleted. She talks about reality like it's a file on a computer, and Silas is starting to realize he's not in the Old West anymore. Just as they're talking, the floorboards of the jail suddenly turn into deep, dark water. 1 second Silas is standing on solid oak, and the next he's sinking into an abyss. He's kicking and splashing, trying to grab onto the bars of the cell, while Elara just watches with a calm expression. Then, just as fast as it happened, the water turns back into wood. Silas is left gasping on the floor, soaking wet, but the floor is bone dry. This world is unpredictable. You can't trust the ground you walk on, or the air you breathe. That's when they hear the hoofbeats. But it's not the sound of flesh and bone hitting dirt. It's a rhythmic, metallic clanking. A man in a pristine jet-black suit rides into town. He's not on a horse. He's on a mechanical bull that's breathing real, scorching steam out of its nose. This is the Auditor. He doesn't look like a cowboy. He looks like a corporate executive who went on a very strange vacation. He doesn't pull a gun on Silas. Instead, he invites him to the saloon for a game. He says if Silas wins, he gets to keep his life. If he loses, the Auditor takes his scar. They walk into the Silent Saloon, and the atmosphere is heavy. The Auditor sits at a table and pulls out a deck of cards. But these aren't paper cards. They're made of shimmering blue light. When Silas picks one up, he doesn't see an ace of spades or a king of hearts. He sees a memory. He sees a flash of a laboratory, a woman in a white coat, and a screen filled with scrolling code. The Auditor explains that they're playing for identity. Every card Silas plays is a piece of who he is. Silas is hesitant, but he has no choice. He bets his scar, the very thing that defines his rugged lawman persona. As the game goes on, the memories become clearer. Silas realizes that he isn't actually a cowboy named Silas. He's a scientist from the year 2099. He was part of a team trying to build a digital paradise, a place where people could live forever after the real world became unlivable. But something went wrong. A virus entered the system, and Silas went in to fix it. The scar on his face isn't a wound from a fight, it's the virus itself attached to his digital avatar. The reveal is a total gut punch. Everything Silas thought he knew about his life, his childhood on a ranch, his years of service as a lawman, it's all just flavor text. It's backstory written by a programmer. The Auditor is a system cleanup program, and his job is to remove the scar and delete the scientist who got lost in his own creation. Silas is playing for his soul, but the deck is stacked against him. He's losing his grip on who he is, and the room starts to flicker between the dusty saloon and a cold, sterile server room. Just as the Auditor is about to take the final pot, Elara appears in the doorway. She doesn't use a key to open the jail cell she was in. She just walks through the walls as if they aren't there. She walks up to the table and tells Silas that the game is rigged because he's playing by the system's rules. She tells him to stop looking at the cards and start looking at the gaps between them. In a move that completely catches the Auditor off guard, Elara reaches out and grabs the iron bars of a nearby window and folds them like they're made of wet paper. She's breaking the physics of the saloon. Silas takes the hint. He stands up and draws his revolver. The Auditor's men, who look like standard Western thugs but move with robotic precision, draw their weapons too. But when Silas pulls the trigger, he doesn't fire lead bullets. The things that come out of his barrel turn into tiny, glowing hummingbirds. These birds don't just hit the targets, they swarm the Auditor's men. Fluttering so fast, they create a sensory overload, causing the thugs to literally dissolve into blue pixels. Silas and Elara bolt out of the saloon. As they run, the buildings behind them start to fail. The general store turns into a giant cube of static. The livery stable simply vanishes, leaving a gaping hole of white nothingness in the ground. They aren't just running through a town. They're running through a crashing program. The environment is becoming a nightmare of shapes and sounds that shouldn't exist. Silas looks at his reflection in a window as he passes, and his face is changing. The rugged lines are smoothing out. His tan skin is turning pale. He's becoming the scientist from 2099 again, and he's losing the only version of himself he actually likes. They flee into the outskirts of town, heading toward a nearby forest. But this isn't a normal woods. The trees are growing upside down. The branches are buried in the dirt, and the massive, twisted roots are reaching up into the sky like jagged fingers. It's disorienting and creepy. Silas has to navigate through a maze of underground roots, while the leaves crunch beneath his feet. Elara is leading the way, moving with a grace that proves she knows exactly how this world is built. As they move through the forest, Silas's vision starts to glitch. He sees flashes of other people, hundreds of them, sleeping in silver pods. He realizes that Red Creek isn't just a small town. It's a massive simulation, holding thousands of minds. The cowboys he saw in the distance earlier aren't NPCs. They're real people who have been trapped in this loop for years, forgetting who they really are. The Auditor isn't just a villain. He's the prison guard. Silas is struggling to keep it together. He asks Elara why she's helping him. She stops and looks at him, and for the first time, she looks sad. She tells him that she didn't just happen to be in that jail cell. She's the one who built the system. She's the system architect. But she got locked out of her own creation by the very company she worked for. She needs Silas's scar, the glitch, to bridge the gap back to the real world. She's not just saving him. She's using him as a key to get back to 2099. The betrayal hurts more than any bullet could. Silas realizes he's just a tool for everyone involved. They eventually find a massive stone church standing alone in a clearing. It looks ancient, like it's been there for 1,000 years. But when Silas pushes open the heavy wooden doors, he doesn't find pews or an altar. The inside of the church is a high-tech laboratory. It's filled with rows and rows of those silver pods he saw in his visions. Inside the pods are people dressed like pioneers, blacksmiths, and outlaws. They're all hooked up to glowing blue tubes, their eyes twitching behind their lids as they live out their digital lives. This is the heart of the simulation. This is where the data is stored. Elara heads for a massive console in the center of the room, her fingers flying over holographic keyboards that appear out of thin air. She's trying to initiate a force quit on the whole system. But before she can finish, the doors of the church burst open. The Auditor enters, but he's not the confident, cool character he was in the saloon. He's falling apart. His black suit is tattered, and he's crying tears of thick black oil. He looks at Silas and begs him to kill the light. The Auditor explains that the real world, the one in 2099, is a wasteland. The people in these pods aren't prisoners. They're the last survivors of the human race. If Silas and Elara break the simulation, they aren't saving anyone. They're waking them up to a world that's already dead. It's a classic dilemma, but with a surreal twist. Who is the real villain here? The woman trying to reclaim her life's work, or the program trying to protect a beautiful lie? Silas is caught in the middle. He doesn't know who to trust, but he knows he can't let the world stay like this. The Auditor's men begin to swarm the church, and this time, they're armed with weapons that fire pulses of pure energy. Silas tries to aim his hummingbird-firing revolver, but the light in the church is so bright he can't see. The glitches are getting worse. The walls are turning into glass, and the floor is vibrating so hard it feels like it's going to shatter. Then, Silas remembers something from the memory cards. In the real world, he was a genius who understood how sound waves interact with digital environments. He realizes that in this world, his eyes are lying to him. The visuals are just a skin. To actually see the enemies, he has to close his eyes and listen to the code. He shuts his eyes, and suddenly the world changes. He doesn't see a church or cowboys. He sees lines of humming energy. He hears the pitch of the Auditor's men. He engages in a blind shootout, firing his weapon based on the sound of the glitches. Every time he fires, a chirp of data hits a thud of code. He's moving like a dancer, dodging energy pulses that he can't even see. It's one of the most incredible sequences you'll ever witness. A lawman in a high-tech church fighting an invisible army. He's not just fighting for his life. He's fighting to decide the fate of every soul in those pods. As the battle reaches its peak, the sky finally begins to change. For the first time in years, the sun starts to move toward the horizon. The orange light floods the town of Red Creek. But it's not a beautiful sunset. It's a sunset of horror. As the light touches the people in the town, the few who were still wandering the streets, they don't just go home. They scream as their bodies turn into solid pillars of white salt. The simulation is cleaning itself up. The deletion Elara warned about is finally happening. Silas and Elara make a run for the edge of the map. They leave the church behind and head toward a massive canyon that Silas remembers from his backstory. But when they reach the edge, they don't find a river or another desert. The ground literally stops. It's a clean, sharp edge, like a piece of paper that's been cut with scissors. Below them, miles and miles down, is a sprawling, neon-lit city. It's the real 2099. It's dark, smoggy, and looks like a nightmare of steel and glass. Silas looks down at his own hand. It's starting to crumble. His fingers are turning into white salt, just like the people in town. But his scar, the blue glitch on his face, is glowing brighter than ever. It's like a neon sign on his cheek. Elara tells him that if he jumps, the glitch will protect his data and download him into a new body in the city below. But he'll lose everything else. He'll lose the desert, the horse, and the man he thought he was. The Auditor catches up to them one last time. He's barely a man anymore, just a swirling mass of black oil and broken code. He reaches out a hand and whispers, "Don't wake up, Silas. The real world is much worse." Silas looks at the terrifying abyss of the future, then back at the crumbling beauty of his western home. He looks at Elara, who is already starting to fade away into the city below. With a final breath, Silas makes his choice. He doesn't want to be a pillar of salt in a dying dream. He'd rather be a ghost in a living nightmare. He jumps. He falls through the clouds of data, leaving the Old West behind. The screen goes black, and for a second, you think the video is over. Then, that classic 8-bit game over sound plays, the kind you'd hear on an old Nintendo. But the text on the screen doesn't say game over. It says, Level 2 start. Silas isn't out of the game. He's just entered a much harder stage. If you want to see what happens when Silas hits the ground in the year 2099, click the video on the screen right now to see the next chapter.